Hi guys, it's Luke. I'm here to talk about the Enterprise for Chemists module. And this is entrepreneurship, and innovation for new technologies. Basically, it's very similar to the last one. We're talking about how to start a company and etc. 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 So to start with, you're going to need a business model. For example, there's a razor blades business model, which essentially is you sell the razor, and it doesn't work without selling the blades. So, for example, selling a cheap razor, you get expensive blades. Another example is printing. Think of a printer. I mean, obviously it's quite expensive, but the ink cartridges for the printers are very expensive too. This strategy focuses on how to employ this. So you need a strategy on how to employ this, and this can change over time. You need to be ready to develop these changes. You need to be able to explore the history of other businesses and how they've been able to develop. Just see how these work and try to improve the best you can if something's not going quite the way you wanted it to. A good way of avoiding failure, obviously, is assessing risks like we spoke about in the last video, but also avoiding failure by spending little money, time or effort, which obviously reduces the risks. So an example of a new product is, wow, that lighting. Move over here, there we go, is cling film. And that changes colour when food is bad, so it goes from it goes from colourless to red when the food's bad. The issues with this is that it cannot be patented. There's legal issues like liabilities. Does it actually work? If someone might actually die from it, if it says it's not, like if it doesn't change red when the food's actually off and someone gets food poisoning or whatever, that's not very good. Who's actually going to buy it? Who's the target market? Who they're going to sell it to? It's maybe not a very large market. And then there's costings. You've got to sell or buy. Well, yeah. So costings is the price that you're bringing in. So how much you sell it for, what you're buying, the cost of manufacturing, the cost of labouring, etc., etc. Then you need to model the cash flow, which is very important. And this monitors the money that goes in and out of the business. So there's essentially this website called Win Squared, which is a checklist of everything that you need in a business. A lot of these things include impacting society, attractive market, does the company have any experience, is there a strategy to go with it, and can it be made, will it work, and will it pay for itself, i.e. will it make a profit? So societal impacts we'll start with. You got to look at the welfare. There'll be regulations and laws that are put into place determining the usage of whatever you're making, or how it's manufactured, or what it will have to include. If it's, for example, the cling film product, it will have to be able to work. It needs to work. As I just mentioned, where's the product produced and by who? You don't want it to be slave labour, because a lot of people have morals, or you might not care, but that's something that a lot of people do care about. Safety implications. Obviously, you need to make sure that it's not affecting the environment as well in the next step, but also the health and livelihood of the community and the people nearby too. There we go. So you need to think about how doable something actually is. Obviously, that will be part of the societal impact. Sorry, I had to just quickly flip back. Because if something's not doable, then what's the point in trying to make it and potentially having a negative impact on society? So the next point that was in the list was market attractiveness. So you need to check online. You need to scout out the competition by checking online, looking at competitors, doing focus groups, doing surveys to see who'll actually want to buy this, who'd be interested in the product, etc. Obviously, you need to check the size and the potential for growth, so the dynamics of the potential market that's there. You need to see how your business can progress and how you can make new products which will appeal to hopefully the same market. As mentioned, there'll be some barriers to acceptance, such as legal issues, cultural issues, and stuff like that. And it needs to work and it needs to make money, because if you're not making money, you're your business will start to fall. So another way of doing it is by doing a pilot launch in this test to see if the market will actually be interested in the product, see if it'll sell, and obviously be able to see whether it's worth it or not. You need to also do the research. That's pretty much self-explanatory. You need to check the market value, how much people are wanting to pay for the product, how much people want the product. You need to look geographically as well, so see what company you want to market in. What country you want to market in. I don't know if I said that or not, but also what age group you want to market in as well. So you need to advertise appropriately for your target audience. So, for example, some people may consider YouTube for teens and young adults who watch YouTube videos, whereas they might advertise in papers for old people, like newspapers. And you also want to license products to business or retailers in order to make a big profit, and these licenses can vary for each one. So if you do have a patent on a product, you can license it to somebody else for various different uses. And there's hockey stick graphs, which are evidence of the exponential growth, essentially. Hockey stick, as you can see, is basically that. It's not a very well drawn diagram, but yeah. So another example of something that we need to think about is the experience of the staff there. You need to see whether you're going into a mass market or a niche market. Niche markets normally have a larger profit margin, just because it's something that's not required and will cost a lot of money to probably manufacture. So high risk, high reward, essentially. There's the technology. You need to have someone to develop and manufacture it. Some people in the company that can do that. Some people who can manage the finances, the cash flow and the equity that you've gathered. When there's a production team, you need to look at the quality versus the price versus the volume of production. So you need to make sure it's of a high enough quality that the customers want to buy it, but it's also cheap enough to make, and there's also enough of it to sell to make a good profit. And then there's the distribution as well, so there'll be drivers or salespeople and businesses potentially that can take your product on and try and sell it. So you also need to look at the volume versus the specialist market. So if you're making it in volume, that's probably for a mass product or a mass market. That's something that's going to have to be produced on quite a large scale. Whereas if you're in the specialist market, it's probably something that's less. And the electric mountain world is just another example. So experience with other companies, you're gonna want that. Top 3 things that you want in the company is the team. You want fairly low running costs, and you also want a payback period. And there's high investments or profit, and then long-lasting setup. So you want something that's going to have a long lifetime. It's going to be fairly cheap to make, fairly cheap to run. You're going to have a good team, and you want a good profit, obviously. And you always want to have support. Always want to have support. Finally, we're going to look at business strategies. Obviously, there's a startup or spin-off company, which we mentioned earlier and we'll mention again later. There's licensing or collaboration with other companies, so you can license the products off to different places. There's a consultancy where people advise you on how to spend your money. And there's strategies that can and should change as the technology develops. So there's a couple of websites that's called SWOT and Pestle, which are for business prompts. So if you are trying to sell it to a consultancy or license it off to somewhere, you want to make a convincing case to the partner that you want to choose with. So you want to make him believe that you're very invested in the product, and you want to make him think that it will sell. So strategy 1 is a spin-off in high growth, in the high growth sector. It's a niche market with a high risk, high reward, as I mentioned earlier. And then the strategy 2, which is offer consultancy in the lower technology and sell with a little science, less risk, but also less reward there as well. There's lots of aspects to a business. It's not just the technology and science or money. you're also going to have to think about everything that's involved that I've mentioned earlier, such as the marketing teams, the technology teams, management, finance, production, and distribution. There's going to be a lot of stuff, and obviously patent agents and the legal side of things as well. So that pretty much concludes this lecture on the business side of things, and next lecture will be on boots, which is obviously a company, not the actual boots that you wear on your feet, but the drug company. So this is a lecture that was given by Boots, and yeah, we'll find out more about it in the next one.